The G itself is a play on letters in Masonry, which is a play on words. And when you look at the dollar bill, this is exemplified, when you see the Mason connected on the back. Now Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. Mason, when you connect the letters, you connect the dots, and of course a letter is a series of dots. It's a symbol, right? It's a series of dots connected together or separated, right? Dot the I, right? Connect the dots. That's one way to look at it. So who is Hegel, right? What happens when the G is hidden, right? Hegel versus Ebo. Ebo versus Hegel, okay? Of course, not all Ebos see it this way. A lot of Ebos are happening. What happens when you remove the G? You get heel. Heel, which is related to hell, right? Heel. It's like play on words and sounds, phonetics, and there's a certain way that the brain, right? You can spell words differently, and the brain will still know what you're getting at. They did a study on this, and this goes back to science and pseudoscience and mental health and what I was taught at a college, a for-profit college, okay? So heel and hell, once you get rid of the G. So the G is like, look, we're going to do play on words with G's, like moving gang without the G. M-O-V-I-N, okay? And so on. Of course, gangsta itself starts with a G. You know what I'm saying? Now think about this. Of course, God, right? And God is dog backwards. Okay, the opposite of being a lowly dog. Or, the dog like Anubis, for example. Or the dogs that, Cerebus, the multi-headed dogs symbolizing different cultures that are the muscle of Hades to keep it his way, to maintain the order. Because Hades wants to control the underworld like Osiris, which means controlling the flow of souls. So either the flow of souls goes toward the light temple or it goes toward Hades. And Serapis is an attempt of the Greeks using the 9, right? They're mixing characteristics of Osiris. They're making them halfway. And think about this, okay? Before we get into this video, there's a lot of good stuff. Watch this video more than once. I really recommend it. When you have good and evil, the checkered floor on both sides, and you have a checkered referee, right? From a occultist, alchemical, materialistic, atheistic kind of Satanist perspective, which is common in Masonry, science and philosophy, materialism, the self-direction, self-direction, selfishness, right? As opposed to selfless, letting God do it, letting someone outside of yourself. And the only way for humanity not to be selfish as a group, as a human spirit, or as an individual, is to go to somebody who's not an individual, which is the ancestors, the God body, the body of Christ, God himself, the Almighty, the glorious, the one true God. Okay, so once you combine the left and the right, I'll make this brief and we'll get right into the 15-minute clip. When you combine the left and the right, you have a virus on each side. It's infected. It's like Serapis and another version of Osiris. Serapis is a great example of their thinking. Think about it. The right is Hades and the left is Serapis. Okay, they're both infected with Satanism. So when you meet halfway, from their perspective especially, you get pure darkness. Okay, so it's like two regions of the universe, or the spiritual realm. Okay, that are next to hell, and they're trying to get those people to go to hell. To that mind, that part of their mind, the temple or lobe, the temple or the realm, the temple. Okay, they're trying to get you to go to hell mentally, spiritually, and physically, like having sex in a way that is satanic, or ripping people off, or beating people up in a way that's satanic, right? Mentally, physically, spiritually, and to have a blackened heart instead of a hardened heart, because God can be cold, right? As opposed to hellfire. He can be his rage is intense. And you might say, that's cold. And that's the argument that Satanists make. God is cruel. He sent his son to die, and so on, right? And from their perspective, obviously, I don't agree. And their perspective is too simple. As they claim to have deeper intellect, they're not as wise. That's why they come to these conclusions. One could argue prematurely, and one could argue on some level, they know that they're wrong. They're just too hedonistic, narcissistic, sadistic, and selfish to snap out of it. And they want everyone to be ultra-conformists. So from their perspective, these lowly dogs in charge look good. So one of the main battlefields is philosophy, and the philosophy of the general population. If you take on these 9 philosophies, we will lose. So yes, we have been betrayed by controlled opposition. And unless you see it my way, you are a bad person. You're going to hell. I mean, it might sound like, oh, that's so horrible. It's kind of like, look, unless you think that raping babies is wrong, you're a bad person and you're going to hell. What I'm saying is almost exactly the same as that when you consider pederasty, right? And how people, children are conditioned, child psychology, and how it relates to trauma-based mind control, and how we all know people need therapy for trauma. So they're going to the very same cult kind of community that 9 times out of 10 cause the trauma in their lives, the problem solution, and trying to get you to meet them halfway with your pre-existing philosophy and to adjust it in a way that is completely dark and consistent with the agenda of the devil. Another word people don't consider is consensus. Think of the Roman Senate as the people really in charge. And that's why Caesars were always killed when there wasn't a consensus. Okay? And the Masons are the Roman Senate in the deep state, right? There's another government. There's a secret government. And the hierarchy of Masonry is like the Roman Senate. And there's a consensus, right? It's against common sense. It calms your senses. It's like, and based on their consensus, you have to bow to their judgment. You will either be treated extremely unfairly or just a little bit unfairly, or somewhere in between. Caesar was the pharaoh of the Roman Empire, so to speak, and he put himself above Egypt during the reign of the Greeks and the Romans especially. He made them do his bidding, which symbolizes the kind of Japhethian control over the Garden of Eden. That's one way to look at it. Okay. So when you look at the psychological factors that make someone proud to have a Roman pagan culture in a predominantly Christian society like Italy or America, right? You must look at it as there's a pool of knowledge, right? That comes from ages like the medieval age. Well, if it's medieval, where are we now? We're beyond evil, or we're in pure evil. Okay? So the mafia was the strong arm, and they would torture people. And this is Roman thinking, or medieval thinking. It is thinking of the monarchy, the ruling class, the elites, who over the years have decided it's easier to rule over the world if they don't get blamed directly, and that helps them shift the blame so the people aren't all pointing guns at them. This is part of why they divide us, because they're afraid specifically of retribution on them and their families. And of the people they've done the most wrong, they've done blacks the most wrong. So another reason, one of many, but a key reason that they target blacks is to keep them from fighting back against their families specifically. And so they try to make it about race till they can increase their odds of survival. The elites are survivalists as well. So all these people who take on a survivalist, I'll just worry about myself mentality, you're taking on an enemy